Hello friends, it's Jess. Welcome back to my channel. I am excited to share a new type of video with you today. This video will take you through the steps of designing my September spreads for my bullet journal. For today's video, I'm going to focus on the cover page, a few spreads I use monthly, and the first weekly spread for September. Later in the month, I'll do another video or two showing the rest of the month's setup and how it all came together. The goal of this style video is to share inspiration if you're into bullet journaling, but honestly is mostly to encourage taking a bit of time to decompress, enjoy some pretty art and relaxing music. I hope you find some peace and joy while watching. For my cover page, I tend to prefer a little bit more art and a little less function, so I like to kind of focus on that aspect so that I have something pretty and a really nice separator between each month. The products I'm using right now are Distress inks, a foam blending applicator, and a foam blending tool or mini ink blending tool. These are used to apply the ink from the ink pad directly to your surface, or in this case, the pages of my bullet journal. I am working in a circular motion to try to prevent any hard lines from appearing in my ink blending, but later I actually did go back and add some darker lines to get a little more texture so that my design had a little more depth and dimension to it. The three colors that I'm using for the spread right now are mustard seed, bright persimmon, and walnut stain. I like to use a scrap piece of printer paper or something you have on hand underneath my page so that I don't get any ink on the outside of the pages for the rest of the notebook. This really helps to keep the mess on one page and not spill over into your other pages. Here I'm spraying a little bit of clean water into my hand and flicking it onto the page. You want to be careful not to apply too much water here as it will bleed through onto the other page if you're not careful. A small amount of water is the perfect way to go. Next, I'm going to be using a background stamp from My Favorite Things. I'm applying a little bit of the walnut stain ink to that and just stamping parts of it onto my background. I'm being careful not to put too much of the stamp onto one area at a time because that broken and imperfect look is exactly what I was going for. For this month's title page, I knew that I wanted to incorporate some new stamps that I illustrated for Maker Forte. So this is a brand new stamp design I illustrated and Maker Forte has manufactured and is selling on their website. I absolutely love the way that this book turned out. I hope you guys love it too. I am using some Distress Oxide ink here. Now I've switched from the Distress ink to the Distress Oxide because the Distress Oxide tends to stamp a little bit better. I didn't get a perfect stamped image because I didn't apply the ink 100% smoothly and evenly. I wanted to go with a little bit more of a rustic feel here, but you can certainly make sure that your ink is applied really well and covers the entire area so that you don't have that more splotchy effect. Once I was done stamping my image up at the top, I decided to draw in a few leaves as well. Now I do try to lay out my spreads in advance so I have an idea of where everything is going to go. That way I'm not left in a position where something is too crowded or cramped and I can't fit it when my spread is being completed. I'm drawing in a few different leaves with my Tombow dual brush pens here, just using a couple different colors that I selected for my color palette for the month of September. I'm also using the Tombow dual brush pen to hand letter the month September. Like I said, I did go in with a pencil first to lay this out and make sure that it would fit, so I knew that my lettering would all fit in this one little area. I did go back through and add a little bit of detailing into the September later, but I wanted to go ahead and start laying out the month or calendar boxes. What I've done here is included a box for each number, but this isn't where I will be putting any of my dates or commitments for the month, so I didn't need to include any space to write. I just wanted to have somewhere to look back as a quick reference and see which day of the week was which date and things like that. Also, I think it just looks really pretty. I used my Archer and Olive acrylograph pen in white to put the numbers over top of the colored area. Every time you use this acrylic paint pen, you do need to activate it, which just means that you need to push the tip against a hard surface so that the ink or the paint starts flowing. And then I like to do a test before I put this directly on my layout just to make sure that everything is flowing smoothly. Once I was done re-inking or reactivating my acrylic paint pen, I was ready to go, so I did go ahead and fill in the rest of those boxes, and then I was ready to move on. I decided to go back in with my Tombow dual brush pens here and add a little bit of extra something to the background. I think that if I had this to do over again, I would change the layout of the spread a little bit to make it flow a little bit more cohesively and make it a little less busy and crowded. I think that if I did it again, I would put the book at the bottom, the September lettering at the top, and have the calendar in the middle. That way it would look like a title, and then maybe even look like the book was kind of opening and that the calendar or month of September was sort of popping or flowing out of it. I think that would have been really pretty, and I kind of wish that I had done it that way instead, but I'm still really happy with the way that it turned out. I decided to add a little bit of something extra to the left side of this spread, and I grabbed my Dina Wakley acrylic gloss spray. This is a white paint, and I just take the lid off and tap it over top of my area that I want to have splatters on, and it just creates the perfect splatters every time. You are going to want to give this a good amount of time to dry, so be sure that you have some extra time so that you can make sure it won't smear or get ruined when you move on. Once you've given that a good amount of time to dry, you can move on and leave it as is, or in my case, I went back and added in a little bit of these stickers from Holtz. I made it say, "Discover imperfection and embrace it." This is a huge piece of advice that I need to take, so I'm kind of channeling those thoughts to myself, and I really love the way that that turned out. It's a good reminder and a good bit of inspiration for me to accept things as they are and not try too hard to strive for perfection. Now I'm ready to move on to the next page. What I like to do on my second page right after the month or cover page is to add in my color palette for the month. I like to be able to go back and reference this just in case the markers or colors that I've chosen get mixed back in with all of the rest of my supplies. This allows me to quickly flip back and forth and see which colors I chose and easily match other colors to those just by looking at the page that I've created here. Because September is a back to school month, I wanted to kind of incorporate that feeling with some of my spreads. So I've sort of used a almost post-it note or washi taped on piece of paper sort of vibe for some of my boxes and layouts this month. I really like the way that this turned out, and I think I'll definitely be using this again. I've seen a lot of inspiration including this sort of style on Pinterest, and I really like it. I decided to also include a package tracker portion to this spread. I like to try to keep track of things that I'm expecting. When I'm working with brands, it can be overwhelming sometimes to have things that are pending or that you're waiting to receive, and this spread really helps me keep track of what's out there, what I'm expecting. If I haven't received it yet and I should have received it, it just gives me a little bit of a better idea of what is going on and what's still outstanding. This also helps me track and see if certain packages from certain brands always arrive early or late, and help me kind of just plan on those things and have a better idea of when things might be to me. When you're working with deadlines, it's always better to have the most information that you can. So what I've done here is I added a spot for what products are included, so what I'm expecting to receive, the company that it's coming from, whether it was gifted or if I purchased it, when it was expected to arrive, and then when it actually arrived. This just gives me a kind of peace of mind in knowing what's out there, what I'm expecting, and if I've actually received it. I don't want to be on the hook for creating a project or doing something for a company and I haven't received it, but they're still expecting something from me. So this definitely helps me out. I completely butchered this part of my spread, which was just adding color to every other line. I don't know what happened here, but my lines were not straight. I don't know. We're just going to pretend that didn't happen. And also, I'll just say that I am embracing imperfection, like the quote on the last page said. and we'll roll with it. The spread I'm working on now is a habit tracker. I really have goals to track all of the things I want to track. And in spirit of that, I included a tracker to track all the things I want to track on this page. Trackception? I don't know. Anyway, I really want to get in the habit of tracking my habits and hopefully realizing them, bringing them into actuality by tracking them. I don't know. I have bad habits like staying up way too late and consuming too much caffeine at very late hours or early hours in the morning. And I want to try to get better about that because I think it will help improve my mental health. And that is something that there's just, I don't know, it's really important. So I'm hoping that by having these spreads where I can track things, I will get better at them and make them a habit instead of just kind of going through life and not really having any accountability to myself. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'll keep you updated. We are ready to move on to the calendar page now that we've finished our package tracker and habit tracker spreads. I wanted to keep this page very simple because when I look at what I have going on for the month, I don't want to be distracted. I don't want to have a lot of other things to catch my eye or make me think about something else. I really just want to have a simple spread that is solely focused on the month at a glance. So that is what this spread is for me. It is a monthly calendar. I did add some aesthetic things around the outside, but the actual calendar itself is very, very minimal and simplistic. I am just using a group of boxes to have room for each day, and then I go back through with a Tombow dual brush pen and highlight the top row of each box just to match my color scheme and give me a place to put the date itself. So I've labeled the days up at the top of each of the boxes, and then I did include one box down in the bottom right hand corner, which is the coming up, or just sort of things that are going to be happening in the next month that I need to sort of plan for or know about as I'm looking at this month's calendar. When I was creating this spread, I knew that I wanted to keep it simple, but then when I got done, I was like, ooh, this is too simple. So I did add some extra flair around the outer edges just to keep it on theme with the rest of my spreads for September. I went in with my stamp from the Falling For You stamp set that I illustrated for Maker Forte, and I am just stamping this in my coordinating colors. So I am just using a variety of distress inks here, and I'm really happy with the way all of this has turned out. I liked the different colors and how I was able to incorporate those. I do recommend, if you are going to be stamping, put something under the side of your journal that has the least amount of pages, just so that it's even. You can see that a couple times I was struggling to get an even impression in some of the areas just because the book is slanted down because there are less pages on the left side than there are on the right side. So just kind of a tip there. I'm also using stamps from my Bear With Me stamp set, which was also illustrated by me for Maker Forte. And I'm just kind of using those to incorporate things, make things tied together and sort of look nice. We are also in the home stretch. This is the last spread we're going to be doing for today's video. This is my first weekly spread for the month of September, and it only has 4 days in it because I prefer to have an entire month all fit into one kind of chapter of my bullet journal and then move on to the next month. So for August, I had the last 3 days that were earlier this week. So Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday of August are on their own spread at the end of August, and these first 4 days of September are on their own spread. I know this won't work for some people. Feel free to change or modify this as you need to. But for me, for right now, this is really working, and I like the way that it all flows when I can flip through my journal and have all of the months really separated into their own little chapters. Now I'm going with that whole vibe of sort of a post-it note or paper pads and things like that here. That's kind of what I was going through, or maybe even clipboards, just something school supply related, and I really love how this turned out. I love that it is very simple, but it's also pretty. It's something that can be done very quickly, but also gives you a sense of accomplishment, sort of that, I don't know, there's just something aesthetically pleasing about it. I like it. So I filled in the top portions here with my Tombow dual brush pens, and I'm using a Letter It pen for all of my lines today, all my fine lines. And the one that I've been using and reaching for the most is the Fineliner that is a 0.9 width. So it's a little thicker. It's a little bit of a chunky marker or pen fine liner, but I tend to reach for it just because I like the way that it writes. I like the way my handwriting looks more specifically with this particular size. Some of the finer pens, I don't like my handwriting in as much. I feel like it makes it look sloppy, and it's not anything to do with the pen. It's just personal preference for me. Once my boxes were completed for my weekly spread, I did also go ahead and add in a mini calendar down in the right hand side. This just lets me look at a glance what the dates of the month are, and I try to do this on each of my weekly spreads just so that it is kind of easier and I don't have to be flipping back and forth through all my pages so much. Now I did also at the top add in a content creation planner. This is something new that I'm trying out, and I'm honestly not sure if I'm going to use a ton, but we'll see. I decided to add a little bit of something extra to the bottom of this page because I didn't have anything specific I wanted to fill it with, but I still wanted to have something pretty. So I grabbed some stencils from Trinity Stamps. This is a really cool sort of winter themed stencil, and I thought it was perfect for creating a fall scene down at the bottom of my page here. I'm using some tea dye distress ink here, and again using the foam blending tool or the foam applicator with the mini ink blending tool to apply the ink through the stencil. I did mask off the rest of the paper, so I covered up the left hand side and the top of this page so that it wouldn't go where I didn't want it to go, so that the ink wouldn't be on the rest of the page, only through the stenciled areas. And then I also used the walnut stain ink here to apply just some variation to the colors of the trees. Now I'm being fairly light-handed here with my ink because I don't want it to be too dark, but also because this is a little bit of a more, I don't want to say flimsy, but easier to move or damage the stencil when you're applying ink, just because it has more cutouts and it has more delicate edges. Delicate is probably the word I was looking for. I decided to go in and add some leaves. I put that in air quotes even though you can't see me right now, but basically they're just like little flicks or splotches of color. There's nothing fancy going on here. There's no heavy design work. It's just a little bit of color to give you sort of the effect of leaves. I'm going in with the same colors from the rest of my spread here, just my color palette for the month, and adding those same colors in because they're perfect for fall leaves. I added some that were falling as well, so you get that whole kind of vibe of fall with the colors changing and the leaves falling, although that won't happen until later in the month, if at all. It may be October before the leaves change here. I'm not really sure. Anyhow, I love the way this turned out, and I hope that you all do too. Our first plan with me is officially over. I hope that you all enjoyed it and got a little bit of time to relax and decompress from all that's going on in the world. Be sure to let me know what you think about this style video down in the comments. I really love to know what you all think and what type of videos you prefer. So be sure to let me know so that I can help make content that you enjoy. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I hope that you have an amazing rest of the day.